Hey, how's it going? Welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be covering how to structure an offer that makes price irrelevant. In so many clients that I work with, the very first thing that I notice is that they're underpricing their service. And that's a huge problem because when your service is underpriced, it hurts your margin, it hurts your revenue. You can't hire good people because you're always worried about how much do they cost because you have to pay more to hire good people. You can't pay salespeople well enough to get actually good salespeople, which in turn makes you get bad salespeople who don't convert. So now you're hurting your revenue further. I think you kind of see the point there. And lastly, you can't run ads. When you charge low prices for something that has low margins, you can't run ads because it's just not going to be profitable. There are some cases where it can work, but it's much more difficult. Whereas if you start with something that's 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20, or even $50,000, it's much easier to make paid ads work because there's so much profit there. You can pay way more to acquire a customer and you're still happy to do it. So that's why in this video, I'm going to talk about how to structure your offers so price isn't a problem anymore. And you're really able to position yourself as the premium option with better fulfillment, better results, and pricing that reflects what you actually deliver. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually why people undervalue themselves. And there are 2 points here on why they do it. First is most people tend to think that if they know something or they can do something, that everyone else can as well. And what that causes them to do is actually lower the value of what they think they do or know is actually worth. And that's a problem because it's not the truth. If everyone could do it, they would already be doing it. And that's really the kind of the first reason why. And then the second reason is they just look at what their competitors charge and then they charge less. So if we're looking at landscaping, for example, that's going to be something I'm going to use throughout this. But landscaping, let's say you start a landscaping business, you out and you look in your market and you see, John's landscaping and Jim's landscaping, they both charge $90. So you're going to charge 80, your cost is 50. You've still got profit there. You're good to go. That's your strategy. Let's get started. So you get started, you start acquiring clients, but then a fourth competitor comes into play and he looks around, he says, okay, these two other companies charge 90. This guy charges 80. I'm just going to charge 70. My costs are 50. I still have profit. Let's go. And that happens over and over until eventually there's so little profit that the actual fulfillment of the service starts to decline. So because you have such slim profit margins, you have to hire lower cost employees or people who will work for less money, which typically means that they can't provide as much value or they don't do as good enough job. And ultimately, that's going to hurt your reputation, reviews, that's going to decrease your sales. And because your margins are so low, once your sales start to dip, you're going to be in the red. So it's really this death spiral. If you get caught in this pricing, like all the chain reactions of what happens to your business overall when your price is too low is really phenomenal. And that's why I don't think a lot of people pay enough attention to just price alone. Like if you can fix price, you can fix a lot of problems in a business without ever touching ads or anything like that. Really, price is, one of the biggest levers that you can pull. So now we'll talk about what low price also does. Low price attracts price sensitive buyers. So let me kind of walk you through my own experience with this. When I first got started in freelance marketing, before I was doing a lot of this ads or the ad stuff and the things I do today, I was on Upwork and I came across a project where someone was looking to improve the conversion rate on their landing page. At that point, I had pretty good copywriting skills. I noticed a few things right away that I could tweak that would increase those rates. So I reached out and said, hey, I would do this. I think I can do a really good job. I showed some past work. And the girl said, yeah, this looks great. But your rate is too high. And I was like, oh, okay. I knew I could do a good job and I wanted the case study. So I reached out, or I got back to her and I said, look, because I know I can do a good job, if you promise me you'll give me a case study, I'll do it for the lower price. And she said, yep, no problem. Happy to do it. Next thing I know, she's got me doing everything that was outside of scope. I was just supposed to improve that landing page a little bit. And now I'm doing code on their payment processor. I'm going through all these loops. She's texting me every single day, multiple times a day, asking for updates and just demanding way more than what I told her I could do and what we agreed upon. Now, take the other side of that. And I've worked with clients and I still work with clients that I charge $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 or more to work with them on ads and funnels and things of that sort. And they never text me. They'll text me like once a week, if that. I'll send them a text, give them a quick update, a couple times throughout the week. And they're like, cool, do you need anything? No, I'm good right now. I'll let you know when I do. Great, talk to you later. They don't care because they're more worried about the outcome than how much work I'm actually doing for them. And that's the difference between a price sensitive buyer and a premium buyer. And what you want to attract is the premium buyer. They're just way better to work with. They're more fun to work with. And honestly, it's typically easier to get them results and make them happy, which makes your business overall better. So that's the other thing that low price does. And then the third is, now that you see the difference between those two buyer groups, when you go from price sensitive buyers to the premium buyers, now when you show a low price, it actually makes you look less credible. So think about this. If you go out and you're buying t-shirts and you see two white t-shirts, one is $10 and one is $150, what do you automatically think? And maybe you do think $150 for a t-shirt is crazy, maybe not. But what's probably happening is you're thinking $150 for that t-shirt, it must be a nice t-shirt. There's better quality there. It's a different material, something, because price indicates value. Price indicates quality. So lower cost providers to this premium buyer group are automatically thought of as cheap. And think about how that sounds. You never want to be thought of as cheap. Like, that just sounds bad. And I do this personally when I go out and get services. I kind of avoid cheaper options. I paid a lot of money to consultants, different strategists, different developers and services and things. And I could maybe go to like Fiverr, which is a website where you can get like freelance contract workers, and they're typically cheap. But what I found is the results are really not all that great, to be honest with you. And that's why I just kind of avoid the lower cost stuff now, and I just go for premium services because I know the quality is there. I know that they're charging more because they're going to put in the resources necessary to get the outcome. And I've found that to be true many times over with the services or the contractors that I work with, or designers, developers, all that kind of stuff. So that all being said, let's get into the core idea, how you actually do this, and how you go from selling a service to selling a transformation. So a service is going to be something like, I cut grass once a week. Cool. That's based on what you do, focused on the deliverables, but it's easily compared on price. Now compare that to an offer, or what I like to call a transformation. And I'm actually going to go forward a bit because I want to give you a better example of this. So the service would be like, we'll cut your grass for $80 a month. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Now the premium positioning is, we do premium 30-day yard makeovers using a high-end design system that increases curb appeal and resale value. That sounds way better. And for that premium buyer group, they're going to look at that option, not the service. Maybe they'll look at the service, but I'm telling you, a majority of them are going to come to that premium positioning because that sounds good. That sounds like a whole transformation. That sounds like something new. That sounds something like something big. And it starts to paint this vision in their mind of what they could have after working with you. So now let's go back up here. The offer is focused on outcomes, on results, and it's harder to compare on price alone. Now, it's important to note here that an offer is not a list of deliverables. An offer is an outcome that you get someone. So when someone works with you, it should be very obvious. Like, if you look at the service option, the outcome, I cut grass once a week, it's not really an outcome. Like, yeah, I guess my grass gets cut. Like, that's not really clear in your head. But when you look at the transformation, where you're saying, we'll transform your entire yard. And if I go back to this example, like, we're going to use high-end design systems to create a 30-day yard makeover that increases curb appeal and resale value, you start to get an actual image of what that's going to look like a genuine outcome. It starts to become clear. And then in your marketing, of course, you'll want to go into more detail of what that looks like. But you can see the difference between the two. One is kind of vague, like, yeah, you'll cut my grass. I guess that's fine. Like, my grass is cut. The other starts to build this big picture of like, man, a whole new yard makeover. They start to think about our yard does kind of suck. Our mulch is bad. We have horrible plants out there. We probably need a new deck in the back. There's all this stuff that goes into it. And you can show how you can make that transformation, and you focus on that outcome. Now, like I said, when someone works with you, it should be obvious, or when they see it in your marketing, it should be obvious. Before, bad yard; after, gorgeous yard. Outcome, it looks better, it increases home value, and it boosts the curb appeal. This applies to B2B too. Before, someone's like, my ads don't work, I cannot get my ads to work. And now after they work with us, they say things like, my ads are generating consistent appointments with ideal clients that are closing at high rates profitably. That's a clear outcome. So now when I work with people, I can show them, hey, here's where you're at now, here's where you're going to be after, here's the ROI, which we're going to get into in a few minutes, and how that works, and break all the other stuff down. So sorry, I jumped ahead of myself there. So the three elements that make price irrelevant are going to be, first, positioning. Look at the bottom. There's a reason I put it at the bottom. That's because that's a foundation. You can do these other two, like the ROI framing and the risk reversal, but if you don't have the right positioning, it's still very easy to shop people. Again, positioning is, how do we take you from typical common commodity service to premium positioned offer, something that they can't get anywhere else. Now, if you just have the service and you do the ROI framing and the risk reversal, that person can still just go to your competitors and say, hey, can you charge less for this? Give me a better ROI, and put some type of risk reversal on it. And my guess is your competitors are probably going to do it. So that being said, that's why it's so important you do the positioning first. So let's get into positioning. Positioning, be the authority, not the budget option. We already kind of talked about this. We'll cut your grass for $80 a month. That is common, basic commodity, bad positioning. You're just a service. Like, it's just not, there's so many other reasons too. I probably should make another video about why this positioning is so bad and all the effects it has that you don't even think about. Like price, I mean, everything. It's harder to make ads for it. There's so much stuff. And then premium positioning, which is, we do premium 30-day yard makeovers using a high-end design system that increases curb appeal and resale value. That's a premium position offer because it's different. You have your own system for doing it, and it delivers an exact outcome. So that's very, very important. And that's what's going to allow you to lay that foundation and then build upon that. So let's talk about ROI framing. ROI framing is where you show the actual return on investment. So the easy, obvious ones are like make more money, save time, but the less obvious is emotional ROI. In the case of the landscaping, it's going to be harder to show actual financial ROI. You can maybe do it with like home value, but it's going to be very hard to say like this is directly attributed to our landscaping job or the yard makeover. The better option is to go for the emotional ROI. So this is going to be things like status, peace of mind, security. There's actually a list of different desires that you can appeal to in people that build emotional ROI. And I will make a video about that. I'll take a note of that. But yeah, when you're using or when you're trying to create ROI, you just pick one of these, whatever makes most sense. Like if you are an ad agency, you're going to be talking about making money. If you do something in AI, you're saving time. If you're tax consultant or an accountant or something, you're saving people money. It's pretty straightforward. Accountants can also make money too, but typically save money in one of these two. All right, so now we're going to get into, we already talked about the ROI. One thing I do want to mention is a simple pricing rule. A big question I get is like, well, what should we actually price it? Like, what's a fair price? And I heard this from Myron Golden, and it's, what he says is if they can make a 10x ROI, or if they can reasonably make a 10x ROI in 6 to 12 months, the price becomes a no-brainer. So this isn't like you have to have 10x. It's just the more of a gap you can create, the more of a no-brainer it becomes. So it's like if I can make you $10,000 and I say I'm only going to charge you $1,000, it's way better than me saying, hey, I can make you $2,000. I'm going to charge you $1,000. And when you hear that, you're like, man, that's kind of tight. Like, I don't know if it's even worth the risk of the $1,000. Like it might, and I got time that I got to probably put into it. Probably not worth it. So the bigger that gap, the better. Now let's talk about risk reversal. Risk reversal is very good because if you think about it, even if someone's like, yep, I love your positioning, the ROI makes sense, there's still that little part of them that's like, what if it doesn't work? And that's where the risk reversal comes in. You can remove that fear by saying things like, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z and don't get the results, I'll work with you for free until you do. Or you can offer partial refunds, bonuses, a performance-based model. There are a lot of different like guarantees and risk reversal things that you can do. But I have two key thoughts I kind of want to put on this first. Number one, if you're offering a guarantee, make sure you can actually fulfill on that guarantee or that you're really able to refund that. I actually had a client that we signed for one of my other clients. I took sales calls for them, and they worked with us because we had a guarantee. And when they kind of asked or like probed into the guarantee more, and when I dug into why they were asking so many questions about it, I found out that they worked with another company who gave them a guarantee, and then after they signed the contract, they found out that there was like some page that they didn't know about that they had agreed to by accident that had all of these stipulations on what allowed them to qualify for the guarantee, and it was pretty much impossible. Like they literally, like no one would ever qualify for this guarantee. But that company was out there saying, hey, we'll give you your money back if it doesn't work. So all these people are signing up, and then it's not working, and they're trying to get the refund for because of the guarantee. And then these people are coming back and saying, no, you didn't do all these stipulations. And they said it was like literally 100 stipulations that they had to do. And like, that's just crazy. I mean, there becomes a point where it's like, you want to increase your chances of making sales, of course, but like, you also have to be able to fulfill on what you say you're going to do. Like, you shouldn't be promising people huge outcomes if you can't actually fulfill on them. And then you definitely don't want to give a guarantee if you know you can't, and then try to save yourself with all of these stipulations like, you must spend $1 million on ads for us to give you this refund if you don't close a client for $5,000. Like, it's crazy stuff like that. So don't do that. Be smart. If you're really, really nervous about the guarantee, just do something like work with you for free until you get the results, or like a partial refund, just cover your costs. There's so much stuff you can do, but you're going to sell way more people into this just by being able to remove that fear. Another thing is, and I actually just heard this from someone else, Daniel Fazio. He's another marketer. He's very, very good, but he sent me a ton of emails about this recently, actually. Like, you don't have to give people guarantees. Like, even if you say you have a guarantee, if you give someone on the phone and they're not going to meet your qualifications, you don't think you can get them a result, just simply tell them like, hey, I apologize for these reasons. I don't think I'm going to be able to get you that result. And because of that, I cannot give you this guarantee. I'm still happy to work with you, but I just want you to know, because of A, B, and C, I don't think I can get you that, and therefore I can't give you this guarantee. And you will get people who are like, that's fine, I get it, let's still work together anyway. And you still make the sale and you don't have the guarantee, but like, you don't have to give everyone the guarantee. It's just a very good way to increase your conversion rates. And if people are like sold but a little bit nervous because maybe they've been burned before, this is just like a good way to show, hey, I'm confident in what we do. I want you to feel comfortable as well. We'll give you a guarantee, and kind of switch the risk in our way a bit too. So the last part, I think it's the last part. Yeah, last part, saying no to bad fit clients. This is something I really want to stress, how important it is that you do say no to bad clients. If you say no to bad clients, you're going to avoid a lot of headache when it comes to feeling like you're charging more than you should be because you're working with the wrong type of person. Again, I worked with 2 different clients. One was price sensitive, one was premium. When I worked with the price sensitive, I thought I was overcharging like crazy. I felt overworked. I was tired of it. And honestly, it just drives you insane. When I work with the premium buyers and I charge way more, I'm so much happier because I just get to do my work. I get to help them get the result, and they don't ask for anything other than the result. They don't care if it takes me 1 hour or 100 hours. They just want the result. So definitely make sure you say no to bad clients. To quickly recap, position your offer as transformational, not transactional. Show ROI clearly, whether it's financial or emotional. Use risk reversal, and say no to bad fit clients to protect your brand and resources. Do those things and you'll notice a few big changes: better clients, higher margins, more confidence in your sales process, and you'll stop hearing your prices are too high. I hope you got something out of this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments.